Hi folks. The question of a laboratory environment crops up once in a while in relation to my psychokinesis experiments. Sometimes it's a skeptic who is demanding that I use that kind of rigorous environment in order to try and prove this. Sometimes people are open to the fact that this could actually yield results, and sometimes it's really just a way of trying to dismiss what I'm actually doing. In principle, I'm not opposed to the idea of bringing this to the lab, but I'm not terribly enthusiastic that it would produce good results. And I'm going to try to tackle this issue squarely without relying on some kind of cop-out. So just bear with me and let me explain the angle that I'm coming at this from. And it helps if I put this in relation to magic, which may be a strange word to use. There are some people who feel that psionics, psychokinesis, all that sort of stuff, that it's different from magic or black magic. Now, I've looked into magic, and the more I look into it, the more I see that the two things are the same thing. White magic, black magic, there isn't really any difference, because magic ethics are nothing to do with magic. I mean, take a hammer for instance. The purpose of a hammer is to build something by hammering in nails. But can you say about the hammer that it must only be used to hammer nails and not to, say, smash someone's skull in? Well, generally speaking, that's true, but there's nothing actually ethical about the hammer. The ethics are in the mind of the person using the hammer. And you never know, there might come a situation, a weird situation, where you have to use a hammer to smash someone's skull in because he happens to be coming at you with a knife. You know what I mean? So let's leave out, this term white magic. And if we use the term black magic, what we really mean is magic without any ethical dimension to it. Just magic, whatever magic is. So people have tried to define what that is. Anton LaVey made the statement that magic is never totally scientifically explainable, but science has always been at one time or another considered magic, which is quite insightful, I think, because back centuries ago there was alchemy, which eventually became our chemistry. There was astrology, which became our astronomy. So magic has a tendency to become science. But where we get into difficulty with this is that science works on repeatable effects. So if you can make something repeatable, it then becomes true and measurable, therefore scientific. Whereas magic belongs to that realm that's not so repeatable. Now what the scientist is actually saying is, if it's not repeatable, it's not real. And there's where we hit the crux of the matter. There's where the real dilemma happens. I would, to give a sort of a personal definition of magic, I would say it like this. Magic is everything. It's every force that's going on all around us. It's all the principles of nature. All of it is magic. And science is that piece of magic that happens to be repeatable and predictable and conforms to mathematical principles. So everything's magic, and science is a piece of magic. So if you bear that kind of framework in mind, this starts to make a bit more sense. You see, I don't think that what I'm doing is all that replicable. Now certainly I can get effects on a regular basis if I'm not putting too many barriers up. Like I can get the side wheel to spin when it's fairly close to my hand. Sometimes I can step away from it and get it to spin pretty well. On a rare occasion, and it really is a rare occasion, I can get it to spin underneath the glass bowl. Now I remain convinced that that is a genuine psychic effect, or magical effect if you will, because It's accompanied by physiological sensations quite a lot of the time. The most profound psychokinesis effect I ever had was one time I was sitting there with my hand beside the glass bowl, the side wheel spinning inside it, trying to make it spin, and nothing was happening. And then, in a moment where I was distracted and daydreaming, I felt something in the palm of my hand, something pass through me and out through the palm, and I immediately looked back at the side wheel and it started to spin. Now there's just no way that there was anything other than, there was a direct link between what was going on with my mind and body and with the side wheel spinning. Now, if I go into a lab, can I replicate that on demand? No. The vast majority of the time I can't even replicate it myself. It just becomes one of these strange experiences that we have. I mean, on another occasion I was determined to show that the side wheel could be spun inside the glass bowl without any hands employed. And that's the video, if you look back in my videos, it's the one where you see me sitting on the floor in front of a little square coffee table. And it took me the best part of a week to get that. I set the apparatus up every day. I turned the camera on every day. I tried to get it working, and it was only on maybe the 7th day that it actually worked for me. So it's not very replicable, and that's why it doesn't fit science, because science does not like things that are not very replicable. I mean, to use another hypothetical example that I don't even know is true, but it just serves an illustrative purpose here. Let's say there's some credence to the idea of poltergeists. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that a poltergeist, it isn't a spirit as such, it's the child's own mind, because poltergeist activity is reported to be around children more than anything. So let's say it's to do with the child generating this psychokinetic effect where objects fly around the room. And it's happening, without the child actually willing it. It's something to do with the unconscious mind, like an extreme version of psychokinesis. So let's say that really happens. So once in a while, much to the parents' horror, objects go flying around the child's bedroom. But if you bring that child into a lab and say, okay, let's see this happening, can you? No, you can't. The same is true of little experiences of telepathy that many of us experience. I'm just talking about those little experiences where you think the phone is about to, you get this inexplicable intuition that the phone is about to ring, and you know who it is, and in a few seconds it rings. I've had little experiences a little bit like that. So if I go to the lab, I can't replicate that, yet it's real. You see what I'm getting at? That's why magic and science never meets. And every time something that is of a magical nature becomes better understood and becomes more replicable, and take the science of hypnosis, for instance, that was originally really labelled as something to do with the occult, which has now gone mainstream. You know what I'm saying? When it becomes replicable and we understand it, then it leaves the realm of the occult and it joins science. So the occult and magic and all that sort of stuff, it's always outside of science by definition. Now there may come a time when something like psychokinesis is better understood and is made more replicable than it is. And when that happens, it will cease to be paranormal because it will be understood and it will join the ranks of the normal. Meanwhile, all the other stuff that remains paranormal, yet has some reality to it, continues to be laughed at. And then the people who used to laugh at psychokinesis no longer laugh because they understand what's going on. Another problem with lab work is that there's no telling that whoever you're going to work with, whatever scientist you're going to work with, is going to come at this from the right angle. A lot of people, when they suggest a control environment for psychokinesis, what they're actually trying to do is create an environment where no energy whatsoever can penetrate. It's as if I'm making the claim that I'm doing this without the use of energy, when that's not the case at all. Clearly something is emerging from the human body that creates the psychokinetic effect. So if you create an environment where there's this big barrier between me and the object I'm trying to move, well, of course it's not going to move. We were never trying to say that this is supernatural, only that it's paranormal, meaning it sits beside what is normal, not above what is normal. You see the difference? Super as in above, para as in beside. You know, it works alongside the normal. Centuries ago, electromagnetism and radio waves would have been paranormal, but they're not, because we now understand this stuff. So the thing about lab work is there's been a lot of it already done, and what you usually end up with is a statistic that is slightly in favour of psi being a reality, like 51%, 52%, rather than an even 50%. The guy that you want to read on this is Dean Radin. I'll just grab his books off the shelf. He's written 2 books. Entangled Minds is his most recent one, and before that was the Noetic Universe, which is released as the Conscious Universe in the United States. He's big on statistics and on what he calls meta-analysis, which is basically putting statistics with statistics in order to get a really massive statistic. And it all seems to point to the idea that psychic phenomena are real. They're only replicable to an extent that they give you a statistical advantage over odds against chance. So it continues to be very slippery. So if I go to the lab, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit around. I'm probably going to argue with the scientist who's trying to impose controls on this, that without really understanding what we're trying to accomplish, which is, we're not trying to create an environment which could just make this go away. We're trying to understand the actual anomalies that are present in an ordinary environment like this that can't easily be explained. So you see the problem here. It's no good shifting the goalpost, putting this in a lab and saying, right, you know, creating an environment where a psi effect is actually hindered from happening. It's happening here, right in my house. It's been statistically shown that it doesn't happen under ordinary circumstances when I did that 7-day video. So here is the anomaly, right here. You have to deal with it right here. So again, I contest that, you know, lab work could just be another attempt at goalpost shifting, because something's going on. Something is definitely going on. And anyone who has had a significant experience of telepathy or precognition or psychokinesis or poltergeist activity in their life, they know what I'm talking about, because they know that despite everything that the materialistic scientists assert, strange stuff happens that contradicts that whole paradigm that they operate by.